You are listening to The Happy Gynecologist with your host, Amanda Miles, MD. Welcome back to part 2 of the 3 steps to beat your burnout. This week, we're going to talk about the last 2 steps to beating burnout. And if you haven't listened to episode 8, then go back and listen because it has the first step and explains what we're talking about whenever I keep referring to the stress cycle. And it's what all of these things are aimed at, completing the stress cycle. It also goes into the first step, which is relaxing your mind. And we're going to go into the second and third step, or second and third way to complete the cycle, which is being kind to your body and nurturing positive relationships. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So go back and check it out so you don't miss out on my favorite step. And I think also the most important step, which is relaxing your mind. But today we're going to talk about the other 2 ways and kind of delve into what different ideas and kind of brainstorm different ways to do that. And so we're going to talk about how to be kind to your body and how to nurture your positive relationships. So different ways to be kind to your body, as you would imagine, might also include exercise, putting healthy things into your body, and sleep. So we all know that exercise is super beneficial to our health, but it is also the most efficient way to reduce your burnout by completing the stress cycle. So, a little bit of exercise goes a long way with burnout. Whenever we talk about exercising to help manage your burnout, I want to be sure that you aren't doing it in a punishing way. We aren't punishing our bodies for being stressed or trying to make up for the cookies that we use to try to feel better. We don't want it to be something you dread or hate or feel like you're on a hamster wheel for. We want it to be fun and we want it to feel good. It doesn't mean you'll want to do it whenever it comes time to do it. You might have to actually really kind of make yourself do it right at first, just because we're not used to doing it. But choosing something that is kind to your body. And I know I'm the biggest critic of how everybody tells us go fix your burnout with yoga and better sleep. But guess what? That's what this step is all about. So it could be yoga or it could be some stretching. People often talk about yoga because it's a gentle, kind way to move your body that feels really good, but also can incorporate the deep breathing that we talked about in step 1 of relaxing your mind. And so that's why it can be very beneficial. And a lot of my physician friends do yoga. And so they're probably less burnout than the rest of us have been. So maybe they're onto something there. Yoga's been around for thousands of years. There's a reason, you guys. So I'm not criticizing yoga whenever I joke about that. I'm criticizing what we've been taught to do to deal with our burnout that isn't as complete as it could be. So that's why I am here. We're talking about how do you completely change the way that you're addressing your burnout to do these things, but to address it on a level that will get rid of it forever. We do that by changing our thoughts about things. Okay, so all of these things are great to do. Okay, but doing some yoga alone is not going to fix the whole problem. It could be that you take a walk and you think in silence. It could be maybe you do some Zumba or you swim laps, or you ride a Peloton or take an exercise class or go horseback riding. Do something that moves your body in a way that you find fun. It can be relaxing. It doesn't have to be that you go to Orange Theory every morning and kick your own butt. Some people really like that though. So if you're into, high intensity interval training, by all means, do it. It's super fun for some people. For other people, that's not their idea of relaxing. That's not their idea of anything they want to do. So taking a few minutes to just take a little walk and think and ponder is totally an acceptable way to move your body in a kind way. The next way in this category is putting healthy things into your body. Now, what I mean by this is not treating your body like a trash can and dumping all the kids' leftovers in it to try and make yourself feel better. Not grabbing the donuts from the doctor's lounge because you deserve it after a long night of call. Now, I'm not trying to shame anybody. These are all things that, I'm raising my hand right now, like this girl right here has done. The reason we do this, though, is because we want to get that yucky feeling or that yucky emotion, that negative feeling. We want it gone. So we're looking for a dopamine hit. And food is very available to us usually. And so that's a really easy way to try and just cover it up, stuff it down inside. Remember whenever we talked about that with the Feeling Stuffers podcast? So this also includes alcohol. Now, I'm not saying don't have a glass of wine with your best gal pals. What I'm saying is that I want you to think about why do you have a couple glasses of wine on the couch every night while you do your charts? If it's not a problem for you, I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm not saying you're an alcoholic. I'm saying, what are you asking the wine to do? What are you asking it to accomplish? And if it's, well, that's the only way I can relax, maybe that's not true. What I don't want you to do is use a substance or a food or a drink to cover up your feelings and cope with your negative emotions. Because let's think back, whenever we talked about the Medscape survey, how many people used a substance, right? Yeah, one glass of wine isn't going to hurt anybody. Yeah, you can say that all day long, but it is a mind altering substance. It changes your neurotransmitters, right? And so I have no judgment. I don't care if you drink the wine. I'm just saying that you need to evaluate what you're asking wine to do. Because if you're asking it to help you relax every night, then maybe you're not coping in a positive way. Okay, maybe you need to think about a different way to cope. And so that's all I'm offering here. No criticism, no judgment from this girl. I promise that. But what I don't want to happen is that you have only negative coping mechanisms and you're doing the things that are listed in that burnout survey, like avoiding everybody and drinking and turning to prescription drugs and even using marijuana. Like if you go down that rabbit hole and that's all you're doing, I worry about you, is really what I'm saying, because it's not just the physician burnout survey. It's the physician burnout and suicide report, you guys. That's how serious this is. That's why this work matters. And doing all of the negative things because none of them are working, and so you find another negative coping mechanism, to try and heal yourself. I get it. So what I want to offer you is, if you find yourself using a substance that is not a good coping mechanism, okay, there are other ways, okay? And that's why I'm here. I want you to look me up on Instagram, message me, let's talk about it. If you find yourself going down that rabbit hole, please reach out. What I want you to also think about, though, is that 53% of responses said that they ate junk food and binge ate to cope. That's over half of the people that responded to the burnout survey said that they did those things. And that's where we can get into health problems too. And that's definitely where I was a little over a year ago. That's where I was. I was using food as my only coping mechanism. So 30% of responses used a substance like alcohol, nicotine, prescription drugs, marijuana. So I want you to think about, what are you using to cope? Are you using any of these things? And if the answer is yes, ask yourself what you're asking those substances or those foods to do for you. The last part of being kind to your body is sleep. And I will be the first one to argue that this could possibly be one of the most important items. So sleep. So many of us are sleep deprived, and we are taught and we are conditioned that this is part of our job. We are taught to run on coffee and adrenaline, right? We are conditioned to find a way to stay up late, find a way to make it through, find a way to do our jobs on little sleep and keep going and don't complain about it, right? But sooner or later, the coffee and the adrenaline is not going to sustain us. It's not going to keep us going anymore. I definitely found this out very quickly after having newborn twins and going back to work, that it's not sustainable and it's not healthy for us. I actually saw my weight shoot up because I was running lower on sleep. I physically hurt more whenever I didn't have sleep. And I definitely noticed this too, post call and all that. But, having twins was a sleep deprivation that I had never had, or such a chronic sleep deprivation to a level that I had just never experienced before. And so I think that I've definitely been to kind of the lowest part of sleep deprivation and back. And now I know that I am definitely a 7 to 8 hour a night to feel good kind of girl. And maybe you are too. Maybe you're a 6 hour kind of person. But what I want you to consider doing is committing to 1 week where you track your sleep. How many hours did you get? And whenever you wake up, type in your little notes app on your phone. Did you feel rested whenever you woke up? Did you have to drag yourself out of bed? And start making adjustments to that. The biggest way to really get into good sleep habits is to do good sleep hygiene, meaning no looking at your screen before bed, having blackout curtains, having a white noise machine, having a cool room that is quiet and not used for work. And also, one of the biggest things that I didn't realize until I started doing it recently, actually, is getting up at a consistent time every morning, even on the weekends. So that doesn't sound like fun. Doesn't sound very relaxing, but y'all, I've not felt this rested in a long time. And so what I committed to doing was, the time I get up during the week is the time I get up on the weekends. And so I get to use that morning time on the weekends all to myself before all the kiddos start waking up. And so that's kind of my me time. That's how I found me time. And to do this, though, I make sure that my butt is in bed early most nights. I don't stay up late. I don't, watch one more episode. I don't, resist going to sleep. If I start feeling tired whenever I'm laying on the couch watching TV with the hubby, then I go to bed. I don't fight it. I try and go to bed earlier now. And another thing that I do is that I know that I'm probably going to lose some sleep on call. And so I will start banking sleep a night or two before. I'll try and go to bed 30 minutes or an hour earlier and still get up at the same time the next morning, but trying to get in another hour or two before I get to my call day. And then whenever I'm on call, if there's nothing going on the floor, knock on wood, like I'm so superstitious right now, like, I don't know, always, I guess. I'm like totally knocking on wood right now. If there's not much going on, then I will seriously, I will like put my call jammies on and lay in the call room bed starting at like 8 p.m. And I might read a book. I might listen to a little meditation. My goal is to try and get some sleep before the 10 p.m. to midnight calls come in. Usually there's a few of those calls where I work. So, and then another round around 2 usually. So I will try and really get to rest before. And so I won't stay up on call. A lot of people, and this used to be me, again, raising my hand, this girl right here, will stay up because they're like, they're going to call me any minute. I just know it. Or, you have someone on the floor and she's, 5 centimeters. Could she go quick? Yeah, she might. Could she take, most of the night? Yeah, she might. So don't stay up if you have someone going just because you think you might get called. So go to bed early and maybe you get surprised. Maybe you get called at 9 p.m. She's ready to deliver, but at least then if it is 2 a.m., you've already banked some sleep in. And so that's been definitely something that I've changed in my call practice and in my sleep practices. Also, go back to part 1 of this in episode number 8 and listen to the part about meditating, because that's how I started really doing better on my sleep as well, is starting to do a little 1 to 3 minute meditation right before bed, just listening to my little meditation app. I use the Headspace app. So look into that if you're interested. And I will say this, you guys, those of you that are very resistant to the thought of getting up at the same time every day, even on weekends, I did it for, I think, a week and a half. And after that, I would wake up literally like 1 or 2 minutes before my alarm clock feeling super rested. And so it's been crazy to see what it's like to actually be well rested. And I will also say this has helped my weight. I don't crave junk food like I used to. I think a large part of me eating junk food at night late, especially, on the couch, like right before bed, was to try and stay awake. Is trying to give myself a boost of energy to stay up a little bit more for one more episode or whatever. And so I think that, My weight has definitely positively been affected, and I'm sure my cortisol levels are lower. So losing weight has not been as big of a deal as it used to be, for sure. And I'm not gaining like I was. So, take that with a grain of salt, of course. But it can decrease all of those things. So definitely make this a priority in this category. If you pick one thing out of the being kind to your body category, pick sleep. Please, y'all, pick sleep. That's the one I vote for here. Now, on to the third category. And this category is also one of my favorites. I guess they're all my favorite. I don't know. And it is nurturing your positive relationships. So, what I mean by this is, I don't mean you have to, if you're not in like a serious relationship, you don't have to go find one. So, the things in this category are positive social interactions, laughter, affection, and the relationship with yourself. That's probably my favorite part of this whole, I don't even know, whole series. Okay. The relationship with yourself. Starting at the top, positive social interactions. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is that casual but friendly social interactions actually signal to our brain that the world is a friendly and safe place. And so this can be super easy, you guys. You don't have to do anything extra except look for positive interactions, okay, or put yourself out there. And so this might be like asking your colleague, hey, how was your weekend? Making small talk, saying good morning to everybody you pass in the hall on the way to go round. Maybe it's complimenting the desk clerk's earrings because you think they're super cute. And greeting every patient like you would a sister. That's one of my favorites. This little simple act, it's not even an act of kindness. It's just being nice and being happy and truly focusing on having a good day, almost like it just gets your brain into this mode that things are safe and things are okay. The lion is not chasing us. It's okay to be relaxed. Okay. It also helps us find the things that we appreciate and that we enjoy, so that we can find those more often. It trains our brains to look for the tiny little things in life that we find happiness in. And so that can be like a muscle. And if we strengthen that muscle, then our brain is going to get used to doing this over and over, even whenever we wouldn't normally. Okay, it'll get stronger at doing this. The next item on my list for this is laughter. Laughter is essentially created or meant to deepen our relationships and our social bonds. It increases our relationship satisfaction whenever we do it with other people. And it also helps us cope in a healthy manner. So, asking yourself, how can I make this fun? That's one of my favorite things to ask myself. If we can just find the humor or the irony of the situation, it makes things so much more pleasant. I know I definitely got through residency using humor as a serious coping mechanism, because that's just who I am. I love to laugh. I love to find the silliness. I love to just be kind of a goofball. And you know what? That makes clinic so much more fun. It really does, y'all. Ask yourself, how can I make this fun? How can I make this amusing? How can I make this a little silly? And I definitely do this at home with the kids. I have taken to trying to figure out how to be a boy mom lately. So those of you that know me know that I have a 6-year-old girl and then 2.5-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. And so I'm used to playing girl games. We have baby dolls and Barbies and brushing their hair, putting their clothes on and off, on and off. I'm really good at that. But with the boys, it's like they're just like innately really good at making monster truck noises, and everything is a gun. Like, my kids never even seen a gun, but everything is a gun. And so, walking around the house saying pew pew is something that is frequently happening at 2.5 already. And so me, making monster truck noises or dinosaur noises is definitely one of the ways that I've had to try and kind of find the fun. And so to bond with him, because I'm used to doing all the girly things, but now I've like had to challenge myself. How do I find the fun in this? What do I do? And so kind of challenging my brain to be open to, how can I make this silly? How can I make it fun? Okay. And so that's kind of an aside. But if you come to my house and you hear me running around with making, dinosaur noises and pew pews back, you just like smile and nod, like, yeah. Because you know what I'm doing? I am closing my stress loop, y'all. And you can too. So the next thing on our list is affection. And what I mean by this, it can be a wide range of things. So don't get all twisted up about this. But in the book about burnout and closing the stress cycle, they talked about a 6-second kiss or a 20-second hug are ways to complete the stress cycle. So hugging someone you trust and love for 20 seconds can actually help you downregulate your stress hormones. And so in my house, that's what we call a Maggie hug. That's my youngest girl twin. And she's seriously the world's best hugger. So I know that this step is a huge decreaser of your burnout because I have practiced it daily for the last 2 years. I don't know what it is about a Maggie hug. She is too, and she can hug me tightly and so long that I feel a shift in my body. I don't know if you've ever known someone that is an excellent hugger. It's because you can just kind of melt into them and you just feel your whole body relax. I mean, my other kids are great huggers too, but no one hugs like Maggie. And like, seriously, every adult that she's ever hugged, in my family or at daycare or whatever, they've all commented on it. And so there is something about a good, tight hug that lasts longer than just a brief, hug and done. You got to make it last. So 20-second hug can actually decrease your stress hormones. So I want you to try that. If you don't have a person to hug, then there's good news. That's what pets can also do for us. So bonding with your cat or your dog or finding a friend with a dog is a great way to close your burnout cycle. And so even just petting an animal or kind of snuggling with them for a few seconds or a minute or two can really decrease this. That's why people love pet therapy, right? Pet therapy works. And so I challenge you to find a way to not get less stressed out if you are holding a puppy because it actually works. It is so therapeutic, y'all. It is healing. So find yourself someone that can do a Maggie hug or go volunteer at the Humane Society and love on some pets. The last is your relationship with yourself. And there is something about this that has been very healing for my burnout. And maybe that's why I like this part so much. So learning to be there for myself rather than beating myself up has been paramount. And when I say that, I mean, like whenever I had a bad outcome happen, I would blame myself for weeks, maybe months. If a patient got mad in the waiting room, I would internalize it. I would scold myself for causing her to be upset. I'd blame myself. In the past, if the hospital or the clinic revenue was down, I would blame myself for not working hard enough. I'd beat myself up. I'd add on more surgeries or deliveries or clinic patients to make more money. I wanted to be the best doctor, which in my mind at the time meant that I made everyone happy and did everything perfectly. Adding to this was my relationship with myself whenever I got home from work. So once home, I would beat myself up with a terrible internal dialogue about being a bad mom. Whenever you give yourself the Mother of the Year award, you guys ever done that? Yeah, that's really not nice. You wouldn't say that in that tone to your bestie, right? Like if you saw that her kid had on 2 different shoes, you wouldn't be like, "Wow, Amy, you win Mother of the Year," right? Why do we do that to ourselves? This is such a big part of healing my own burnout. And so what I want you to think about is this something that I would tell my bestie or my sister or my kid, right? I would never criticize my kids like I criticize myself. A life-changing exercise I did to really address this was I literally took out a piece of paper and I wrote down the definition for a good mom. And then I wrote down a definition for a good doctor. And I think, before that, I definitely believed that I could not be both. I had all of this evidence that it was true. I couldn't be both. And I would cuss myself daily about that shit. Like I would beat myself up basically because I I wasn't being a good enough doctor, and then I would go home and not being a good enough mom, and I definitely couldn't be both. And we just get in this cycle of how that's how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be hard on ourselves so we can get better. We're supposed to be hard on ourselves because that's what we do, right? You win the Mother of the Year award, or you assign yourself that so no one else can, right? And so really all this does is it really wears on the relationship with ourselves. Next time you think about adding on more patients to your delivery list each month because you're not being a good enough doctor and you're not good enough because you're not making the most money, I want you to think about if that's really going to make you a better doctor, because it's not. My definition of a good doctor is one that treats her patients the best she can with the information she has. That's it. That's my definition. It does not involve making the most RVUs. It does not involve no complications. It does not involve no IUFDs, because those things happen. And so same thing with being a good mom, right? What do you guys think a good mom does? She doesn't always make it to pickup. She doesn't, make it to every school play. That's not in the definition. It's not. Being someone that is kind and supportive to her kids as much as possible, maybe that's your definition. So go write your definitions. And I would guess that you're beating yourself up about not being a good mom for a lot of shit that's not included in that definition, right? Who cares if your kid had to take school pictures and her hair wasn't perfect? There's no beating yourself up. Kids are crazy. They play on the playground. It doesn't reflect on you as a bad mom if her pictures aren't looking good. She's adorable. And so are you. You're a great mom. So next time you find yourself cussing yourself or trying to be better, I want you to think about this. You are enough right now, as you are, just for simply being a human. Every little tiny newborn baby is born with infinite potential. You go into the nursery and you see all these little pink babies, and they are all perfect, right? Every single one of them is perfect. They're beautiful. They have so much potential. And guess what? I have the best news for you. That does not go away whenever those babies grow up. You do not lose your perfectness or your enoughness or your infinite potential just by growing up. You still have infinite potential and you are still perfect just by being a human. I want you to start working on believing that, because it's true. It's so true. And finding the relationship with yourself is going to let you be who you want to be. I can help you do this. So reach out to me. Come talk to me on Instagram. Go to my website. I'd love to hear from you. What do you guys think about this list? I'd love to hear. All right, you guys. I'm so excited to give you guys the 3 steps to beating your burnout. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please come find me. All right. You guys have a good week. Bye. Thanks for joining me today on The Happy Gynecologist. If you have questions or comments, head on over to my website, coach-miles.com, or follow me on Instagram at CoachMilesMD. I'd also love it if you left me a review on iTunes. See you next week.